We are going to go incredibly fast this week. It's 4 days, an hour a day. In addition, there's homework. Now, the homework isn't intended to make you guys like stay up all night, but really to just what our philosophy here is you watch me do it and then you do it. You watch, you do. And so the homework is essentially, it shouldn't be more than 30 to 45 minutes, but it will allow you to experience yourself what is in GA4. So it's like that, it's just really getting your muscle memory uh, of GA4 up. So, okay, Hala, can you see my screen? Okay, cool. So, first I'm going to do is go over the what we're going to go over in the course. Like I said, it is, let me throw that in the chat. Hopefully everybody can open it. If you can't, just shout out to Joe here. But what we're going to do is day one, there are links to the activities, like things that you're going to need for the activities. Day one, day two, day three, day four. In day one, we're going to do checking your implementation quality, learning a little about GA4, how it's different from GA3 in its setup, and also making sure that you're getting the robust data that you need inside it to get the data out. Um, we'll get to there in a second. The next day, architecting GA4 for competitive advantage. We're going to have 2 days of looking at GA4 implementation, and that is critical. It's because GA4 is not just for bean counting, attribution, like how much revenue, what products did we sell? It actually is built for AI. And with artificial intelligence, it's not as much garbage in, garbage out, so much as it is little in, little out. If you don't put much data in there for it to predict on, then you're going to get very light predictions from whether the AI is from us or the AI is from GA. So I've seen, people, if you think you can just turn on a Shopify integration and get all these robust insights, that is a wrong assumption. Um, there are access. Hi, Maria. There are access to the recordings and they'll be live for a few weeks. The intent is for you to do the homework. So again, it's like watch me today, go do it tonight. And that is how you're going to get to understand, basically level up your ninja skills. Day three, we're going to get into the Explorer tab. We'll spend most of our time in Looker Studio because that's where there's most flexibility in analyzing GA4 data. And then finally, we'll get into some A/B testing case studies together. So hopefully you'll be designing some A/B testing studies for your website based on the information that you're learning. So that is the agenda. You all have it. And let's get started. So how much time do you say would you if you're spending more than, like, let's say 30% of your time analyzing Google Analytics data, just throw a thumbs up into the chat. If I want to understand like how much time you actually spend in there, and if you have a team, put something else at number two. I think it's real easy to get overwhelmed in there. Google Analytics 4 is very clearly designed for a data analyst to understand. If that isn't your job, then it's easy to go clicking around and not finding the things you used to get inside GA3. Things as simple as conversion rates by channel, conversion rates by campaign. They're not easy. You have to actually get that data out now. And so, the thing to understand about Google Analytics 4, and some of you have heard me make this analogy if you've come to any webinar, you might have heard these terms. Google Analytics 3 is a structured data set. Google Analytics 4 is unstructured. It is event-based. These are like, terms that are out there for analysts to understand. The way to think about it is like Google Analytics 3 is your model home. You can walk in and everything works. You get exactly what you need. We've been doing it for 15 years. And now Google comes in with GA4, which is essentially a home taken down to the studs. What is beneficial about that is you can design it for anything that you like. So if you are the type of person who's been in Google Analytics 3 and kind of just ran into a wall, or if you're like Robin and you have a team and you ask a team a question, and I can't really get to that answer, it's because GA3 was this model home. We just can't rip out the plumbing and redo the data set. With GA4 you can. And that's awesome. However, it means that you're going to need to get the plumber, the designer, the carpenter, and to build everything as you would like it, which means that the planning is so critical. The thinking about you can't just plug it in the way we used to be able to. We need to architect it and be really intentional about the types of information we want to send in. Filters, video views, video title, collections, collection names. These are all things, season. Those are all things that you might want to have inside your GA4 account that was not even possible in your GA3 account, which now you have access to. But again, it's going to take a blueprint. So um, going through these 4 days, what we're going to do is first today is spot a good and a bad implementation and look for all of the things that need to be turned on right away. Next, tomorrow we're going to talk about the architecting the data and look at a couple different websites for different case studies with really robust data versus a real lack or basic data. Nobody wants to be basic here, I'm assuming. I hope. Um, and then we're going to look into how to get the data out for the next 2 days is like getting into the Explorer functions inside the GA4 interface and then building your Looker Studio templates and then finally getting to a place where we could start increasing the conversion rates on the site because that's ideally what everybody wants is like, okay, well, we can shovel all of the advertising to the site as we can, but what is often missed is what is actually happening when a person gets there. I think it's very easy to have a gravitational pull to analytics and attribution for campaigns when you're spending $1 million to $2 million a month. But when the rubber meets the road is when somebody's actually on your website. And that's where GA4 really kicks in is what are people doing? What are they looking on? How are they filtering? How are they shopping? So if you know that Amazon is tracking every damn click, you should also be. In addition, if you're going to the grocery store and you know what they put in your cart, what they put back, that's all the stuff that you need in your GA4 account as well. Now, I will say GA4 is not super great at attribution. You will, if you're trying to do matchy within Facebook, and it's a losing game. But if you are using Google Analytics 4 to deeply understand your customer behavior, this is where the success comes in is like, okay, I understand that people from this time period who put this on the wish list, who then, subscribe to my email are more likely to convert at a 27% in conversion rate lift. That's where the real learning and the e-commerce behavior begins. And that's where GA4 is very strong. And so who am I? I was working at all the big agencies, JWT, Omnicom, WPP, Publicis. I was the director of analytics working on Mattel, Nissan, Nutella. And my biggest challenge was getting smaller companies who were not a publicly traded, who was not a Nike, to buy analysis. And it's because like we just have enough money to get the data together. We don't have enough money to actually analyze the data. But it is in the consumer behavior that the empathy begins between e-commerce manager or marketer and potential customer. And when the empathy begins, empathy equals money. Are you feeling me on that? Like when you understand what they like, how they behave, does it correlate? That's when you can really start to comport your e-commerce to things that are going to help them buy more stuff. Let's just make it plain. So ClickVoyant is an AI that I built that I wanted to have when I was the director of analytics because we couldn't get to the analysis. It connects to Google Analytics 4. It's looking for the behavioral cues that are leading to conversion rate. And it levels up what an agency was typically providing, which is we were delivering decks. And let's face it, businesses still talk to each other in decks, even if you're in-house. if I'm going to go present my, budget defense for Q4, I'm going to do it in a deck to the CMO or the CFO. And that's what ClickVoyant makes looks like this. And this is the dream of having clean data. Our shit doesn't work if you have bad data. But imagine like, you're going through all of these data models, like what is leading to conversion, who is buying, what are the other activities that might be correlated, and how much is that worth? These are all questions that you can answer if you have the GA implementation correct. And not only will it work for our own AI, but it's going to work for GA's AI too, which is still, trying to work, but the data is pretty poor. And so the promise of getting these like behavioral insights to ensure that you're making more money for your companies and that every advertising dollar is going to convert is where we're headed. So let's get started and look at GA4 implementations. So can I get a show of hands, like we implement this ourselves or we hire somebody? So implement ourselves, 1, we hire somebody, 2. All right, awesome, awesome. Okay, so feel free to ask me any questions about any of this. The first things that we're going to do is go to your syllabus, go to day 1. Let's download the analytics debugger. Do you guys know what that is? Yes or no if you've ever seen this? No? Okay. Connect that to Chrome. And then we're going to also pull up the tagging schema template. And then you could save the core data layer guide for later. But let's pull up the template. So when ClickVoyant is implementing GA4 for our e-commerce companies, we're looking for everything that a person can do to interact with the brand. So we begin with this list. Yeah, no problem. No problem, Miriam. Um, there it is. Okay, are we there? I see you guys. I see some of you are on there. So what I'm on is the UX audit tab. First thing we're going to do is take an account for everything that is available: navigation clicks, call to action, social media actions, non-tag links, chatbots, modals, search results. Now, if all of these are present, we'll click yes, and then we want to see what is in there. So I'm going to take a look at this analytics debugger. We're going to do a website that we looked at with team last week. BabyQuip is a company that is doing baby gear rentals. So dope. Like when you go to a place with your baby and you don't want to schlep all your stuff across the airport, you can go rent it. So what I'm doing here is going into this analytics debugger and I'm seeing what kind of data is being collected. So you do these with your own sites. And even for some of you agencies, prospect sites is a great way to get leads into the door. So I can see, well, actually, I always forget to tell people this. No, when you download that, you go to this cup of coffee and you donate this guy a cup of coffee because this is a completely free tool that allows you to see how all of the tags are firing inside GA4. So for you agencies there, this is a great opportunity as part of your discovery process of a new client where you can then start selling in GA4 robustness. So now what I'm doing is using the analytics debugger to see what is firing here. And I could see on the home page, it's a page view. I'm going to start to look for a baby gear rental. It's so hard for me not to look at the user experience because that's always how so I'm saying, okay, I want to do FOCO food truck rally. I'm going to search for this on, this is the date in the past. So let me make sure I don't create any weirdness, or let me pick a date in the future here. Hit continue. And now if I'm an e-commerce person, like I mean, there is an e-commerce component here. Um, too, I'm searching for a baby gear rental. I'm searching for a product and I'm looking for things like the data that is being populated. So let's say I want to do a full, like I need to order a crib. And you could see data here passing through in GA4. I want to do this pack and play. I'm going to add that to cart. Okay, new cart. Let's see, I've used this before. And what I'm looking for, did it capture all of my actions? You guys catch that? What's missing?
Cart.
Go on, Craig.
Greg,
What did you
or
see?
add cart. Did we miss that?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So here I am, GA4, user engagement. Now what I'm also looking for, this looks like an out of the box GA4 integration. And I do not see anything related to user engagement on page view. What analytics debugger is showing me is what are the parameters that are being captured, meaning what is the dimensions that are associated to the event. So we mentioned like it's event based. I didn't see the add to cart event. B, I don't really see any parameters around things that I did, whether it was searching. Let's go back. So now what I'm seeing here, this is my history. First, I went to babyquip.com and then I somehow refreshed the page. And then I went to partners location search. And what I'm collecting on that page is that the page fired, that there was a page view, that had some engagement, but I don't see. Well, I could see search text, FOCO, food truck rally. It's in the URL, but it's not in event parameter. I don't see event that said this user engagement was a search. If I were the e-commerce manager, I would want to know things like the search happened. I would want to know things like what dates were being searched for compared to the day it is today. I want to know the things that were searched for, getting virtually none of those clicks. So what we're seeing is basic measure. You're right, Alexandra. What we're seeing are the basic measurements. And so what I would be doing in this next part of the work is to say, okay, what do I see here of all of these things? Navigation clicks, call to actions, adds to cart. Was it present? Is it present? And then did it fire? Like, I'll just say, was like, were there events? And so you go through the site soup to nuts and say, all right, these are all of the things that are present and not tracked. For agencies, though, that's the lead gen activity as well. It takes maybe an hour, and you can also outsource that. So those are some step number ones. Is just to see like, okay, how robustly is my site tracked? You'll get a good sense of that in this first tab. Then who still is on GA3? Do you guys have any customers on Google Analytics Universal? I mean, I'm sorry, Premium? Anybody? You're on through. Thank you, Taylor. I was like, what is the name of that thing? Um, so some of you might not have yet tried to do the experiment where we track GA3. So some of the things that we also recommend doing if you are in that world still, Taylor, is to start to look at what you had in GA3 and think about where you might want to go in GA4. A lot of times we'll pull like, okay, the goals and events that we have. You'll see sometimes inside the analytics interface that there's like no no goals registered over the last 7 days. Those are probably a lot of old stuff. So you want to go into this area, Taylor, and then start cataloging what your goals are, and then starting to define that for GA4.
And defining those goals from GA3 into GA4, is that just since a lot of those goals are made up of some events, how would I go about restructuring that for GA4? Is that like
Yeah,
a,
so
oh, sorry, go ahead.
what we recommend, because you're now architecting the data, is to say all of these UX audit that we just said, oh, that we have, we're now going into this tab calling the tracking schema. That's your blueprint for the house. And when we say there are two columns here, so like let's not look at this too deeply because I know it can get a little bit crazy, but there's column E was like, is this a conversion? And does this conversion replicate a GA3 goal? And here's just like a simple yes or no. Okay. So I'm going to, so I first, your next, just backing up a little bit, your next steps are after the UX audit, you have the existing tracking audit and cataloging GA3. You may still want to go back and do this while you have time. Even those of you who are not on 360, take a look at what people used to have on GA3 and just try to consider, is this still important to us moving into this new AI era and GA4? Then you'll get into what the tracking schema should look like. Again, this is the plan for the unstructured data set. How many of you have looked at the GA4 UI and was like, why? How many of you are just like, why? Why are all these like, there's no, it's like, it's all click events. Let's just take a look at, let me pull up an analytics account for GA4. Let me pull up the merchandise store. It's called a merchant, Google Merch Shop. One of the things you'll notice right away is that in here, when you look at the overview of acquisition, engagement, events, what are your thoughts here? Is it helpful? What other questions do you have about this?
A question that comes to mind is the defining some of these. So like user engagement, how could I, how does that translate to an exact behavior or event that I could communicate?
Yeah, exactly. What is it? What was it? What promotion was viewed? What page was viewed? Who scrolled? When did they scroll? What item was viewed? All of
Right.
these things are not readily available, and they're available. So essentially the way that we in the world of analytics, we call these our metrics and they're a dimension. All of these event names, they're the name of a metric. A page view happened, but you don't know which one it was. And so it's not super easy to tell right away. Now, there is a nifty little feature here which will allow you to get to the dimensions of that thing. So if you want to see like, okay, which of the page views were page views, you could just select page title and add it right here. And then now you could see, basically things that were when's the promotion viewed on the home page, a promotion was viewed on the or view cart was on shopping cart. But what I'm trying to get at is here is all of those descriptive details of all of the events are in this piece of magic, which is your parameter. So the parameter.
Sorry, Mia, can I ask an event? What is the difference, or how do you define an event in G4? Like, is it like a page view or like a conversion? Like, could be anything. What I struggle with is that an event is something so wide that it's hard for me to understand, how to get to where I want to go. You see my point?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the thinking and the intention comes in with this tracking schema and the audits. You say like the easiest place to start is from your website. Again, like the user, like if we're going back to BabyQuip, just looking be like, what do I need to know that this website is working? That when I buy a visitor and I pay that dollar to get them here, What do I want to know about what they're doing here? Adding to cart, taking out of cart, um, filtering by date, by city, all these other things. That's a bit of user activity and action. That's a user event that you want to know. And so to get yourself out of this sort of overwhelmed place, like it's like, is it something that I want to know about? When somebody's clicked on a CTA, when somebody clicks on a navigation, when somebody clicks on a form, that is something you want to start just making a list of here. And that list begins with your accounting of the user experience. And the reason why you want to capture all of this now, I'll say when we do an implementation, we're collecting that all. And it can feel very overwhelming. But to get to train an artificial intelligence to learn about your customer behavior, not just you like, getting counts and amounts. Like you could do that all day long. You could go to Matomo and do that much easier. But to get an automated research system going, a customer behavior, you're going to want each one of these things. And I'll end and show you a couple examples of two different websites I'll just preview it for tomorrow and we'll dig a little bit further. But before we get into what the tracking schema is, you just start with the UX audit. Like break it down little by little. What is a UX audit? Start designing your tracking schema. What are all of the events that I want to collect? And then in your custom parameter column, what are the things that I want to know about that action? And this is like, you could create some people like to use the old GA4 category action label, and that's very okay. If you want to say, oh, we're on these we're translating from French to Italian, and so we need to have event category action label still from GA3. That's cool. But know that the reason why event names now have like 25 parameters associated to it, that a custom event of category action label only had 3 things that you could measure with that. So for example, our companies would be like, hey, you know what? We're doing a lot of product videos on our product detail pages now. Here's the problem in GA3. If you want to collect a product video event, you call it category video. You would call the event play, and you'd maybe put variable as title, right? Makes sense. Video, play, title, category, action, label. But what you're missing is, what product was it? What season? What category? What subcategory? Was it a parka? Was it outdoor wear? Was it winter? Those you could never get in the Google Analytics 3 universe. Now you have all this flexibility to get deeper, even deeper detail on every one of these events, 25 custom events. So I would definitely be thinking about it in new ways. For example, so like you say, okay, I get into my tracking schema where I want, in column A, these are my event names. This is the description. This, by the way, is a product, a deliverable that you can share across multiple agencies, across multiple disciplines. When everybody says, well, what is event? What does that mean? Like if you're in here, you're like, well, what does that mean? What is view promotion? Exactly. You'll have it in your documentation. When you're building a data architecture, you need to have this so that everybody has a shared definition. So it's like you describe it, records when a user filters a view of any list. What's my priority on this? Because there's a lot of work to be done. So you rank a priority. I don't get fancy with it. 1, 2, and 3. That's it. So when a user filters a view of any list, that's my priority 2. Is this a custom metric? Yes. Is it a conversion metric? Probably not. Does this again? You think, does it replicate a GA3 goal? If that's of interest to you, and then how are we going to trigger it? So some of you are new to GA4. Are you also new to Google Tag Manager, or how the term trigger? Okay. Okay, cool. Matthew. So a trigger is the bit of code that says, I want to fire that. So you say, I got you, Robin. So when you want to fire a tag, so when somebody clicks here, there are these listeners that say, okay, I'm going to trigger a CTA click by using a custom CSS inside the HTML. I'm going to trigger a phone link click here when the URL contains tell : in some of these instances, which is really awesome about GA4, these are automated. In other instances, it requires a bit of development work. So a lot of these things you'll see are in the custom data layer event. And I'm going to put a pin in that. So now you guys know what a trigger is. Put a pin in that, and I'll be right back to this topic. Then you want to have, these are all the custom parameters that I want. Oh, this is customer event parameters. Like, dang that, I just realized. Custom event parameters. Say, okay, parameters are sent with event tags. The parameter name is like content type. This is like, you might want to name different kinds of content, like we're inspiring a customer, or this is season fall 2024. UX feature name, a video, autoplay, UX feature location, maybe section 3 of a page. So these are just me riffing on things that we typically do. A video title, you want to grab that. Video length, okay, this is a one minute 30-second video. Form name, what form is it? The Klaviyo form. Click text, learn more. Find now, discover the collection. So those are parameters that you're going to want to consider as the descriptors to all of your events here. All right, is everybody with me so far? I know we've got different levels of GA4 understanding, but are we together? Ask me the questions now so we can all get on the same page. UX, event name, custom parameters. This is the main thing you got to do tonight. That's actually here. The homework tonight is browse through your own GA4 account, note down any perceived strengths or mistakes in the implementation, identify 3 opportunities to improve an implementation of a website that you or your prospects own, and then give, the base implementation guides to developers. Okay, so I'm going to get to that now. But these 2, browse through your GA4 account, identify 3 opportunities to improve, whether it's a parameter or a tag in itself, something that you find is not even tagged. So use this Clickvoyant training document, make a copy, make it your own. Okay. So now let's get back to triggers. A lot of the stuff that we have, that you'll find in your UX audit is not in the Shopify integration. A lot of the stuff is not in your integrations with Klaviyo. It will be oftentimes developer work. And that's where the data layer comes in. There are 2 ways. You got that, Joe? Can you help Maria with the analytics debugger? I'll just.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Oh, you know what? You have to go to, when you download it, let me close this out. You actually have to go to developer tools. So, oh gosh, I'm a quick keys person. So on my Mac, I hit Command Option I to show the HTML. But let me see if I can remember how to do this. I think you go View, Developer Tools, right there. Everybody see that? Matthew, Robin, and then that'll give you like all of the code on the site, and then Analytics Debugger should be here. And then you hit Start Debugging. Cool. All right, thumbs up. All right, we're there. Matt, I'm so excited for you unlocking this new skill set. I just increased your HR value. Go get your raise on. Okay.
Sorry, Mia, can you show us again once you pull like the code or how to access the debugger?
Sure, sure. So do you have this window up, Maria?
I have code window app that shows on the right hand side of my screen.
So it looks like this.
Yes.
Okay, so here, um, you should see this caret. See where I'm pointing with my mouse?
Yes.
And you should be able to see analytics debugger in the list.
Okay.
And then that will bring up the tags.
Yeah, perfect. That works.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Um, and yeah, I'm a fan of, if you want to change the view, I'm a fan of this view actually to dock it at the bottom. Anyway, everyone, it's just your preference. All right. So now going back to difficulty, okay? Difficulty of a lot of the stuff is going to be in the data layer. That means you're going to have to get a developer. Now, sometimes you can get developers off of Fiverr who can do this for you. We have partners as well. And if you do not know how to get some of the events in through your integrations with Shopify, you're going to need to hire that person. Now, what I have here also, this is your base implementation guide to GA4. Actually, let me just double check that I'm on the right one. I think I tried to pull up the one. You should have one that is for e-commerce. Now, don't get scared. Let's go through this little by little. This is essentially a collection of all of the things that you're going to want to give to your developer so that they can understand what is it that we need to, what kind of code do we need to create on the site to allow for some of these other things to populate. For example, a form. Shopify doesn't do form population. So when somebody signs up for Klaviyo or a newsletter or anything like that, you won't have that in your Google Analytics account. And so you'll have to create like new forms, like here's a form submit event. Now the data layer allows for code to be fired to the site so that Google Analytics can capture it. But not only can it be captured by Google Analytics, it can be captured by Pinterest, Facebook, all your other performance media tags. So once you have one of these and it is implemented on your site correctly, then you could share that across all of the marketing tech stack. So that when I have a data layer event for a form submission or an account created, it also means that that same data layer event is sending pings to like wherever you sell, LinkedIn, Klaviyo, so that the conversion event is fired in the same way as Google's is. So essentially what happens with the data layer is a developer will say, okay, in this example of field input, um, or let's say this example of like a content accordion. Okay, so this is like maybe I have FAQs on like Maria's vitamin page or something like that. Frequently asked questions, and it's in an accordion. Then you want to like open it up and see if that person did it. So let's look at an example. Actually, this is a good opportunity for us to check in on a good versus bad implementation. Okay, so let me know if you could see my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so what we're doing is looking at, let's do Yale versus Harvard. What we're looking at is 2 pages, financial aid for Harvard versus Yale. I'm going to debug the Harvard site and look for their GA4 tags. And I've already debugged this site, so I know that they have an FAQ right here. What fires on their FAQ is an accordion click. See that? Is everybody with me? What fires on that accordion click is not just the event, but also all these parameters, content group, it's financial aid. What was the click text? Is there financial aid available to foreign students? Primary audience, landing page, content type, landing page. So I can see all of the things that this, like, imagine if you have a prospect for e-commerce, you could see, hey, you don't have any things added to your frequently asked questions about your product. Now you can see now you could see how maybe some of this information is helpful to you. If I knew that people were opening this accordion click and that was correlated to an application to Harvard, then this is something that's a really important feature for my site. Basically, having all of the metrics around user experience allows you to know what you as an e-commerce manager need to focus on. Is it the coupon? Is it the spin to get a discount? Is that something that's working for me? Maybe not. Maybe that's actually detrimental. Maybe the pop-up modals are actually reducing conversion rates. So that's why you want to make sure you're tracking all of this detail. Now, let's take a look at so we've seen Harvard's tracking. Let somebody just tell me what you think about these two pages. Here's Yale. I'm just going to scroll down. Everybody look qualitatively. Tell me what you're feeling about Yale versus Harvard's financial aid page. I'm going to call on somebody.
The Harvard one just looks like a little more personal, and like they have videos and pictures of people at Harvard and less just like words and reading.
Yeah, totally. It's Harvard is a vibe, right? Yale is like, here's my shit.
Yeah,
Pardon my
just
French.
super
Here it
plain.
is. Right, exactly. And let's just take a look at when I talk about data-driven empathy with your customers. Let's take a look at what kind of data Yale is collecting on how people behave here. Okay. So just a page view, no real properties, event parameters around that. Very little data about this visit. Not even a scroll, by the way, which is an automatic GA4 implementation. Estimate your cost in 3 minutes. Let's see if they want to know if I click there. So I was here, I was on this page. Okay, so they didn't even know that I clicked on that cost calculator, even though there were two. Here, you could see the difference between what the Harvard experience is like and what they're actually collecting. They know way more. Let's see, net price calculator. Let's click there. Let's see what happens. This net price calculator is content module click. Everybody see that? Content module click, financial aid, click text, net price calculator, landing page. Let's see what was on the user property. So on my page view, content type, primary audience, landing page. So they know, there are certainly things that I would add to these kinds of things, but Harvard knows that I did that. Do you think that there's a coincidence that Harvard collects way better data on their user experience and is a better user experience?
No.
Right. And so again, when we're taking it back to the e-commerce store user experience, it's the same thing. And we'll get into this a little bit later in the week, but best practices, I am not a big fan of. I'm a big fan of innovation, finding ways to connect with other humans, finding ways to emotionally connect with customers. And so if we can create the data that helps us to learn about people, we can create better, more innovative store experiences with our customers. So, the word data is actually a Latin rooted word in the word to give. And so I think as digital marketing, e-commerce managers were often like, oh, tell me how many products were added to cart, tell me how much revenue we did, what sold. Like these are all measurement metrics that I think an entire industry taught us to do. But Clickvoyant, when we implement and when we're looking at data, it hits much different. It's like, yes, you have to do that and we're going to help you. But ideally, we're looking for ways to create this data-driven empathy with the gift of their data of clicks and swipes and filtering. We want to know more about them. We want to research about them. And that's why you're going to want to do this deep thinking and deep work about what are they doing and how much can I learn from all of this stuff. So before we end, I want to say that there is an admin checklist. Okay, this is on this. Not only do we have to tag the site now, and back in the day, GA3, you tag the site, boom, it's in there. Bob's your uncle. Now you have to create the catcher's mitt. You not only have to send the data via Google Tag Manager or whatever, or Shopify, you have to catch the data inside GA. Now, I've created this checklist, and there are some screenshots that you can go through. You can go through this checklist even tonight to just see how robust is your data set. Number one, extend the data retention for GA4. If its default is 2 months, make sure that's checked off to 14 months, especially if you have a long, I mean, just in general, do it, because then that'll allow you to retarget people beyond a 2-month time period, and learn about them over 14 months. Turn on Google Signals. So Google Analytics is basically just getting all these activities for or understanding demographics, cities. That's what you're going to have to do with Google Signals. Link it to your Google Ads account if you haven't done that already. Collect custom dimensions from the event parameters. So now it's not good enough to just send the event parameters via tag. You have to also set it up inside GA admin panel. Otherwise, the data won't show up in there. It's so annoying. But you send the event parameter. You have to also define the dimensions so Google knows where to put that. Turn on enhanced tracking except for forms. So there is an enhanced tracking feature inside Google Analytics, which allow you to create, like basically all these other things like video plays and YouTube plays. It's very good, except for forms, because when you're submitting a form, even when the form is not submitted, say you missed a character uh, in the passwords, or say that your password was incorrect, it will still fire a form submit, and that's going to mess up your conversion metrics. Next, create audience segments. So audience segments, and we're going to get into this on Thursday, but they allow you to report and retarget. Right now, audience segments are only automated our purchasers and everybody else. So mobile, return, people who abandon cart, you definitely want to set those up. So here I said we suggest starting with mobile, desktop, return users, new users, and users who abandon cart. And then there's these two advanced ones. Like there's again, say this is advanced. If you're interested in this, hit me up. By Miriam. And does consent cookie permissions or browser Safari have an impact on the data retention settings and how it will perform? It does not have effect on the data retention settings, Luke, but it does have effect on whether the data will go in to Google Analytics or not. So there is a component of permissions that just will block the data from going into it at all. And that's why, using Google Analytics as an attribution tool is not the most accurate place. What you're going to want to use Google Analytics for primarily is sampled research to be able to retarget, find lookalikes, and learn about behavior. But the beauty of it is that you don't need to have all the data to be able to do that. It sucks for reporting, but it's great still for behavioral. All right, so there is that administration checklist. Do that or get through as much of that as you can tonight. And again, like this is essentially an introduction to how GA4 needs to be structured. That was today. The homework again is just identify opportunities to improve your implementations, and maybe if you have access to your developers, give them the base implementation guide and get like some scopes of work to see like how long it would take them to do those things. Note, there is a note in the base implementation guide, especially in the e-commerce area, is that if you have, most e-commerce platforms have integrations with GA4, so you would not want to use a data layer. You would want to use it for things that maybe are not available. For example, taking something out of the cart or adding a product to the wish list. So not all of that is required. And that's it. So tomorrow, we're going to get into looking at more case studies like the Harvard one specifically for e-commerce, and comment on some things of how we can, what is the competitive advantage of having all of that behavioral data. All right. And if you have sites that you would like me to look through tomorrow, please email them to Joe. Are we good? How's everybody feeling? It was kind of, I mean, it's an intense hour.
Sounds good.
Can you say that if there's any sites that we'd like you to look at to forward to Joe? Do you just mean like as an example for when we review tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if you want us to look at your site, we get happy to look at your site. No judgments here. Everybody's learning GA4, so getting it quite robust at Go 1 is unusual. So if you're open to feedback, we're happy to do it all together.
Thank you.
I put my email in the chat, everyone. Everyone should be receiving emails from me about the reminders, and you'll receive some more about the recordings. Those will come out at the end of the day today, just so you guys know. You'll have a chance to look at them. Like Mia said, the timeline part of it is just to make sure that everyone gets through it and we can still help, right? While it's fresh on your minds, our minds, where you are with the recording. So you'll receive those an email from me tonight if you have any questions, concerns, feedback, all that. This helps make this course better for you and everyone here, the questions that you ask or feedback that you give us along the way.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
See you
Thank you.
mañana.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mia.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
Good training. Great,
Oh,
great
thanks,
stuff.
Craig.